Benimaru Nikaido is one of the original characters created for the King of Fighters series. He immediately became a staple in the franchise's roster since his debut in '94, and since then he'd been in every single main entry to date. Although he was originally designed to be the sidekick of the series' main hero, canonically speaking, Benimaru was killing it in the countless tournaments he was in. For instance, among all the characters of the KOF, Art of Fighting and Fatal Fury series combined, he is the one who won the title of the King of Fighters the highest number of times. And yes, I counted them. Despite his humble beginnings as being the second guy of Team Japan, Benimaru continued to be fleshed out throughout the iterations in terms of gameplay and story, teaming up with new faces, forming his own teams, and escaping his fate as being nothing more than another Jojo's reference. Before diving deep into his story, as always, if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe and click the bell icon so you can be notified with every new video posted. Just like Ryo, Benimaru was born from a Japanese father and an American mother. It is unknown how he gained the ability to control electricity. All we know is that Benimaru has always electric power since his birth. Being the sole child of a very wealthy family, he was pretty spoiled, which explains the egocentric part of his personality. However, he also had a great deal of love and empathy in his heart, especially towards his close friends. He followed a modeling career and was pretty successful in it. In parallel, Benimaru had a second profession. He loved the thrills of combat and was a renowned professional champion in many international fighting events. He believed in his capacities and had no doubt that he was the strongest man in Japan until the King of Fighters '94 tournament was announced. Japan held a tourney that intended to select the 3 best fighters in order to represent the country in KOF. Benimaru, being already a professional and experienced participant, made it to the finals with ease. He was put against an unknown high school kid who nobody ever heard about him until then. He underestimated him at the beginning, but quickly learned that this Kusanagi was no joke. The fight lasted for a while, but at the end, fire was superior to electricity. Although defeat was not a pleasant feeling for Benimaru, he acknowledged Kyo as the better fighter for now. And so the competition ended with the choosing of the 3 men, Kyo, Benimaru, and Diamond, the judo champion who came third, as the representatives of Team Japan. It's true that they started their acquaintance as opponents, but in no time they became close friends. The new formed Team Japan entered the King of Fighters tournament, a competition that gathered many well-known names, as well as obscure fighters. Benimaru and his teammates fought their way to the finals, and were invited by the host, Rugal Bernstein, who was glad to meet his future set of statues that he intended to add to his morbid collection, as he told them. Fighting for their lives more than for the title of the tourney, they bested Rugal and managed to escape his death trap. They repeated the same feat the following year and get rid of him for good. Benimaru joined Kyo in '96 and entered the tournament to investigate about the mysterious assailant who attacked Kyo shortly before its start. They reached the organizer of that edition and defeated her, becoming again the champions of KOF. After Genets was vanquished, Benimaru was relieved that it was all over, but Kyo didn't think so. The model was asked again to team up with his friends for the 4th time in KOF. He agreed and the try won that edition as well. But during the celebration, they were attacked by Iori, who looked more enraged and uncontrollable than ever. After they neutralized him, Kyo went on his separate way to save Yuki, and since then, no one heard of him for 2 years. Benimaru returned to his normal life and resumed his both professional careers, though he couldn't help but being worried about his missing friend and waited for his return. One day he received a letter from Kyo's pupil Shingo. It was an invitation to join him in the upcoming KOF 99. But when he met the young man, he learned that not only Shingo didn't send any letter, he himself also received one, supposedly from Benimaru. In addition to that, they were to team up with two mysterious fighters that nobody heard of before. Despite the shady circumstances, Benimaru thought that he would learn something about Kyo's disappearance during the tournament, and so he accepted to enter KOF 99 with his unusual teammates. He learned from Chrysalid, the host of the tourney, that Kyo was indeed kidnapped by NESTS, but he escaped shortly before the competition started. The base started to collapse after they defeated NEST agent. Benimaru and Shingo were separated from the other two members of the team and were running as fast as they could to escape from the falling debris. Shingo was almost going to be buried alive under the destroyed base when he fell during the escape, if it wasn't for Benimaru, who went back and saved him from a certain death. The next year, he took the initiative and decided to form his own team for the first time. He could already rely on Shingo, of course, but they still needed two additional competitors. This is when he remembered an old friend of his, the agent Seth, and invited him to join his team. Seth accepted gladly, as he had his own reasons to enter the competition. The agent introduced them to the fourth member, Lin, who since their first meeting did not get along at all with Benimaru. The two men were the total opposite in pretty much everything. While Benimaru was the talkative, flashy, outgoing type, Lin was the quiet, reserved, distant guy. Fights between the two broke out all the time, and their two other partners were always busy trying to calm them down. However, Benimaru knew that he needed Lin's skills in tracking people, and it would certainly help finding Kyo. When South Town was destroyed by the Zero Cannon at the end of the tournament, Ron, the man who Lin and Seth were looking for, appeared suddenly in front of them, looking more powerful than ever thanks to NEST technology. The timing couldn't be worse for them, as they were all injured by the weapon's devastating attack. After Lin refused Ron's offer to join NESTS, the renegade assassin proceeded to finish his former friend. Ironically, he was saved by Benimaru, who managed to sneak behind him and unleashed his electric power on the fearsome assassin. Unfortunately, Ron's reflexes were quicker and succeeded in escaping the attack unharmed. Still, Benimaru's intervention discouraged him from trying to kill Lin, and he finally decided to flee for the time being. Shortly after the end of KOF 2000, Benimaru and Shingo reunited with Kyo at last. They decided that it's best to fight against NESTS as a team instead of individually. They asked Diamond to join them and form the Japan team once again in order to stop the evil syndicate in the next tournament. 2 years later, Benimaru helped Shingo clear his name after being falsely accused of arson. As a thank you, the high school student pestered him to death to enter the 2003 edition of KOF with him. Benimaru ended up surrendering against his relentless request and accepted to participate. They called their mutual friend Diamond to join them. They complimented Shingo's progress in fighting at the end of the tournament, which boosted his ego to the point that he stated that he is no longer Kyo's disciple but his rival. He couldn't choose a worse time to say that, as Kyo was right behind him and heard everything. Benimaru and Diamond refused to meddle when Kyo started giving Shingo lessons in humility. Once finished, he told them what happened to Shizuru and how Ash stole her sacred mirror after he severely beat her. Benimaru felt bad for the young woman's fate. Few months later, he was invited by a French noblewoman named Elizabeth. Once he arrived at her mansion, he met Dulon, the former teammate of Ash in the last KOF. Elizabeth was a childhood friend of Ash, but lost contact with him many years ago. She was concerned when she heard that he had appeared in the last tournament and wanted to know everything that happened there. After the two men told her what they knew, they realized that they had more or less the same objective, finding Ash and stopping him. Elizabeth desired to bring him home. Dulon wanted to punish him as he felt that he was used, and Benimaru had the firm intention to beat the smug brat to a pulp for what he did to Shizuru. The trio knew that there were good chances that he may be present in the next KOF, and so they decided to form a team and enter it. The peculiar alliance they formed was strong, so strong in fact that it was them who made it to the finals. They fought against the tourney's hosts, Shion and Magaki, both members of those from the past, and defeated them, becoming the champions of KOF XI. But instead of celebrating, they continued searching for Ash until they finally found him in the middle of stealing Iori's sacred treasure. After seeing his friends Kyo and Shingo badly beaten, Benimaru thought it was Ash's doing and was about to unleash his wrath on him. But with the help of the Yata mirror, Ash teleported away from the grasp of the angry trio. After the tourney ended, Benimaru paid a visit to Shizuru and informed her about what happened. He then went to check on Shingo, who was still in the hospital. He found Diamond there and learned that Kyo had already recovered from his injuries. After contacting him, the three men agreed to form the good old Team Japan and go to the King of Fighters 13 tournament with the intention to stop Ash and those from the past once and for all. When KOF 14 was announced, the patriarch of the Kusanagi clan, Saishu, summoned his son, Benimaru and Diamond, and asked them to enter the competition in order to stop a new threat that will appear during the matches. The famous Kung Fu master Tang was also present during the meeting and demanded their help in assisting his new students throughout the competition. Against all predictions, Team Japan was qualified to the finals. Again, they faced the tourney's organizer Antonov, a hulking figure with immense power and a heart of gold. Despite his strength, he had no chance in winning against the combined force of the members of Team Japan. But the moment he was defeated, the sky blackened and a foreboding shadow started destroying the stadium. The evil entity that Saishu and Tang warned them about showed itself. The three fighters were expecting it and stood to face it. After all, that's what champions are supposed to do. They fought heroically against Verse and succeeded in defeating it. The monster exploded into multiple pieces and everything became quiet again. But the three knew it was far from over. At the airport, Benimaru reassured Kyo that if the monster ever comes back, he can count on his help destroying it as many times as it takes. And after he bid him farewell, he returned with Diamond back to Japan for a well-deserved vacation. Although the origins of his powers are unknown, Benimaru learned how to use them in the most efficient way possible since his childhood. Electricity runs through his body like blood in his veins, with the possibility to augment or reduce its intensity at will. You can tell its level just by looking at his hair, which tends to stand upwards whenever he intends to fight. Benimaru can create electric balls with different sizes around his fists, which not only gives his attacks elemental properties, but also enhance the reach of his punches. He's capable to shoot horizontal sparks of lightning and hit enemies very far from him, but this technique seems to consume a lot of energy and he rarely uses it. While his feet can also be fueled with electricity for some devastating kicks, most of the time Benimaru uses his hands to shock his opponents. One of his dreaded techniques is the Electrigger, which consists of holding his victim and release a mighty discharge through their body. He can summon thunders from the sky, though they are not as strong as Shermie's. Then again, Benimaru never had to sell his soul to acquire such power. Pushing the extent of what his electric powers can do, he learned how to create multiple images of himself and attack his enemy with them, a technique that is considered as one of the coolest looking supers in the series. He mainly utilizes close-range techniques and his agility is outstanding. In fact, not only he can jump very high, he can control the speed and trajectory of his descent to some extent. In addition to his electric abilities, Benimaru fights using using Muay Thai, an already powerful discipline that he perfectly combines with his elemental power. This is a common characteristic of Team Japan's members. All three of them have control over an element, but they don't rely solely on it, as they're also skilled practitioners of their respective martial disciplines. He considers Kyo as his rival since the day he lost against him in the pre-KOF 94 tournament, and he secretly trains for a revenge match against him someday. One of Benimaru's defining features is his flirty attitude. He hits on pretty much any female opponent he faces. That doesn't stop him from going all in during the fight, coldly and mercilessly kicking their butts, then feeling bad about it. I like his "oh no, what happened" posture, as if he just arrived or something. He genuinely cares about his friends and always stands by their sides in their moments of need. He proved many times to be a reliable and trustworthy companion, despite his somewhat obnoxiously self-centered personality. He may be an egocentric, but he's far from being selfish. Benimaru would always jump to the aid of his friends, even if it means risking his own life. As you all know, Benimaru's design was based on Polnareff, a character from Jojo's Bizarre Adventure. His overall look, hairstyle, outfit, tone, all of it comes from that character. Polnareff is not the only inspiration for Benimaru though. Almost all his attacks and techniques are homage to other manga and anime figures. The funny part is, Benimaru actually hates nerds and otakus. What an hypocrite. Special thanks to my patrons for their generous support. I hope you enjoyed this video. Give it a thumbs up if you did, and why not consider subscribing to the channel. Stay safe and thanks for watching.